So I'm just doing a little work on the instrument cluster here from this 85 745i. I'm going to take this one apart. This is the cluster that came in the car. See over here, it says 81,000 miles on it. But again, that is a 140-mile-an-hour speedometer when normally they had a 160-mile-an-hour speedometer, I believe. And then you can see here that has the European fuel gauge, which the needle fell off of that. That's how corroded it was. You can see in here the inside of this cluster is all nasty. The tachometer itself is very gross. On the back here to disassemble one of these, first of all, this was the seatbelt light that they added to this thing. There are a bunch of screws here you take out. I've already taken them out on this one, but got one here, one here, one here, 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 here. Once you take those screws out, this simply pops out. We can get rid of this part here, but I'll show you here why I'm going through all this work on this cluster. Again, the inside of this is nasty. Like I said, this just crumbled and fell apart as soon as I touched it. This is not the correct speedometer in here. You can see even over here, a bunch of rust in the speedometer. The tachometer's got a bunch of rust in it. I did already replace the SI board in this one, just in case that was one of my problems. To get the speedometer and tachometer out, you just simply push them out here. But I'll show you some more issues once I get these out. I don't mind being careful because these things are basically garbage. Forgot to take that part out, but yeah, I'm supposed to take this out first. But again, you can look in there and it is gross. And then you can kind of see on the board here, I don't know if these are just bad lines now, but the inside of this board is also nasty. Now that I've got the fuel gauge out, simply just kind of pulls apart. I had bought this SI board delete a while back because I thought that might have been the problem with one of the problems I was having with it. This is the SI board that came from it. You can see somebody had put in some remote batteries, but then they never bothered to replace them because these are from Radio Shack. So they're pretty old. So I got to go ahead and get this SI board out here. Couple of slotted screws here. Which these are all corroded and hard to tell where they come out. But now that I got the SI board delete out, I can go put it into the replacement cluster that I bought. And just to show you again one more time, I don't know how this thing got so much rust in it. Those gears are broken. I mean, the speedometer could probably be used again, but I won't worry about that right now. Bought a replacement cluster off of eBay for about 90 bucks. Downside is 279,000 miles on it. Nice little crack over here. It is a US style cluster, so it's got the US fuel gauge in there. The inside of this is not as nearly as bad as the other one. I've already gone ahead and taken the screws out of this one too. So we'll pop that out. I do happen to have a European style fuel gauge here that I'm going to try to swap into this along with that SI board. So again, these just slide out. I gotta remember to take this clip out of the bottom here. So first you take off this connector. Had to struggle that a little bit off screen. You take out this connector from there after you take off this wire. And then the tachometer should just slide out. This does connect to one of the pins on one of the boards in there, so you gotta make sure it comes out correctly. So here's the SI board that's in this one. To get those out, just kind of separate this. Don't pull it too hard because you have a connector you gotta undo down here. So you just have to undo this connector from the SI board and then this connector from your main board. And then again, take out the two flat screws here. Sorry, 3 screws. And this is the problem with most of your SI boards, is these batteries go bad, these batteries leak, and then they will cause issues on the board. So to get your fuel gauge out here, I actually have this little tool that came with one of my Tamiya RC cars that I just built here. Fits perfectly. You gotta take these two little nuts off the back. Take off these little washers. And then ideally this will slide off. You can see right in here, that little pin that comes out of the board. Those are the motor contacts. Sometimes you can very gently with a screwdriver kind of pry them just to get them moving. I know it is not ideal. I do not like doing this either, but it will get everything moving for you. Of course, one of these is stuck. So that came off of there. This board does not look that good. Damaged the trace a little bit right there, but whatever. I'll get it figured out eventually. So again, European style one. That motor's got a bunch of corrosion on it for some reason. I honestly don't know how this car got so much corrosion just on the gauges, but it did. Not the best way to do this, but you just push those on. Take your washers, put them on there, put these nuts back on here. And we could take our SI delete here, goes in right there. Put these 3 screws back in. And then for this, you simply, not so easily, but connect this ribbon cable down here. And then connect this ribbon cable up here. So once you got those ribbon cables connected, everything just slots back in there. Kind of see that that one is seated down there. And simply slide all this stuff back in. I'd like to figure out a way to modify that odometer to read the correct mileage, but I won't do that on camera because, yeah, legal reasons. So make sure that you get these pins down here lined up. That simply slots back in. Take your housing. Of course, it's a US spec housing too, so it's got all the normal US lights along the bottom as opposed to the German style. But this is basically just a temporary cluster until I can get the correct one. Mostly because pretty much nothing on the other one was working. So in my earlier videos, you noticed that the tachometer wasn't working, and I would really like to know what RPMs the engine is idling at. These things are important. Do not mix them up because they depend on what speedometer you have. I don't know how they fully work, but they essentially calibrate the speedometer. Simply pops in there, reconnect that, and then that's our hybrid US and European style speedometer. So we'll go put this in the car eventually and see if I can get a reading on the tach and see what we're idling at. All right, I will talk to you guys later.